So protists were once part of a single kingdom, Kingdom Protista, but they redid all the phylogenetic and taxonomic groups because they realized that it was not monophyletic. In fact, they realized that the protist group was polyphyletic, which means that you've grouped organisms with different ancestors together. And so they wanted to reorganize this polyphyletic group into monophyletic groups. And so in order to do that, they reorganized domain eukarya into the eukaryotic supergroups. There's 7 eukaryotic supergroups. Supergroup Discoba, land plants and algal relatives, Alveolata, Stramenopila, Rhizaria, Amoebozoa, and Opisthoconta. So Discoba, Alveolata, Stramenopila, Rhizaria, and Amoebozoa are the 5 supergroups that are only protists. So organisms that we call protists belong to those supergroups. And then in addition to that, we have the land plants plus their protist relatives, and then Opisthoconta, which is animals, fungi, and their protist relatives. And so by reorganizing into these supergroups, they were able to create monophyletic categories. Now, this is really recent reorganization, and so they're gradually changing these supergroups over time. So be aware that this information might be different from newer information or from older information that you might see or read. So the first supergroup is Supergroup Discoba. We think that Supergroup Discoba was probably the modern day Supergroup Discoba is the most like the earliest eukaryotes. The name comes from the disc-shaped cristae in the mitochondria. So inside of their mitochondria, they just have a distinct shape to that inside structure compared to other eukaryotes. They are phagotrophic, so they're able to engulf other cells. And again, this is related to endosymbiosis because these are probably the cells that first engulfed a cyanobacteria and first had the chloroplast form, or that would evolve into chloroplasts. Chloroplasts and mitochondria, because remember, mitochondria also arose this way. There's several examples in this category that are parasites. So remember that most are not. So I'm going to say most are not pathogenic, but sometimes we like to highlight the disease-causing ones just because they're interesting to us. You may have heard of them, but again, remembering that the majority of protists are living in pond water. You could drink them and they wouldn't hurt you at all, okay? But a couple of them are parasitic and are a little bit interesting to us. So one that you may have heard of, Trichomonas vaginalis, is an STD in humans, a sexually transmitted disease in humans. Giardia is another one a lot of people have heard of. Giardia is spread in water. So it's cows into water, and water to humans. And so when humans drink untreated water, they can catch Giardia from the water, and it causes really, really bad diarrhea for like 7 days. So it can make people like dangerously dehydrated. So Giardia is actually the primary reason why it's not safe to drink creek or river water in Colorado. So as you probably know, Colorado has a long history of having cows here as part of the agriculture that developed here. And the cows have spread Giardia into virtually all of our waterways. Sometimes people think, oh, if I'm up in the mountains, this creek looks so clean and just so fresh and beautiful. But because cows have been ranging all over the state of Colorado for a long time, it probably has Giardia in it, or it could. So even if it looks like the most beautiful, pristine mountain stream in the world, you should still filter the water to make sure there's no Giardia in it. So these particular ones are examples of ones that have a really modified mitochondria. So their mitochondria doesn't look exactly like ours in that they don't have their own DNA electron transport chain or citric acid cycles. They have some variations of what's happening with their metabolism. And that, who knows, maybe that's why they need to have a host. Okay, Supergroup Discoba also contains the Uvula Noids or Euglenozoa. So I'll write the other way we oftentimes say this, the Uvula Noids. They're interesting because they have these protein strips right underneath their plasma membrane, and you can see them in this picture. I'll just sketch some in here so you can see that. So see those little dotted lines there? These protein strips operate almost like muscle. So muscle also is striated like that, has like a strip-like texture to it. And it's sort of helping to create the same kind of squeezing motion, and that allows them to crawl through mud. They vary in their nutrition. Some are heterotrophic. Euglena is photosynthetic, and so you could probably have guessed that based on its green color, right? So it's capable of photosynthesis. So some of the Euglenozoa are photosynthetic too. Another member of Supergroup Discoba, or a group of members of Supergroup Discoba, are the Kaneto Plastids. They're named for an unusually large mass of DNA in their mitochondria, and they usually only have one mitochondrium in the cell, and it's just very, very big. And so that's what this is showing here. So there's the nucleus, and here's the kinetoplast. And so it's staining almost as big as the nucleus. That's how much DNA is present in these particular protist mitochondria. Two examples that you may have heard of. Leishmania is a protist that is spread by the sandfly in subtropical and tropical regions and causes skin infections or even worse problems. And then Trypanosoma brucei is the cause of African sleeping sickness. It's spread by the tsetse fly. In South America, a related protist causes Chagas disease, and these are much more. These are really serious. They can be fatal.